Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Let's see. Let's make sure we are live everywhere. We are supposed to be live. All right. Come on in the room. Welcome. I'm just making sure that we're live everywhere. Yay, I love it when people come in on time. Wonderful. I'm just making sure that we're live everywhere we are supposed to be live. I'm going to share this out. So bear with me for a second. Come on in the room. I hope that you all are as excited as I am to hear about bookkeeping and what entrepreneurs need to know. I don't know about any of you, but like with tax season, or not tax season, but like with taxes just recently due, obviously I had to reassess and look back at my bookkeeping and so on and so forth. So I definitely, am excited about this discussion to make sure that, I'm prepared moving forward and to, hear some things to see exactly how I did this, this past year. So I'm excited. I hope you all are excited as well. Okay, we are sharing there. Bear with me for a second. Like I said, I am making sure that we are live everywhere we're supposed to be live. And I want to make sure, come on in the room. Come on in the room. Oops, we do not need to be commenting over there. Okay. Can I share this? It does not look like I can. Okay. Excellent. So, welcome. Hey, Journey to Generational Wealth gang. I'm so super excited to be here for another live. I am Laura. For those of you who do not know, I'm financial coach and owner of Journey to Generational Wealth. I empower professional women of color to achieve their financial goals, financial stability, and security, and begin their journey to generational wealth. Through financial coaching and personalized financial strategies. April is Financial Literacy Month. And for those that are not aware, financial literacy refers to the knowledge and skills necessary to make informed financial decisions. Welcome to Journey to Generational Wealth's Financial Literacy Live series. This month, I have had the privilege of collaborating with some amazing women of color in the financial industry. So throughout this month, we have highlighted we're highlighting topics like building wealth through real estate investing. That's going to be next Friday. You don't want to miss that, regardless of where you are. Everybody can have an additional stream of income, and I'm about adding up the streams of income. So yes, building wealth through real estate investing. The first Friday of the month, we had increasing your credit score. Last Friday, we had life insurance and why it's a necessity. And tonight, we're discussing bookkeeping, what entrepreneurs need to know. So please allow me to introduce our guest speaker for this evening. All right.
Hello.
Allow me to welcome Sabrina Trimiew, an accountant and business alignment coach. She understands that managing finances can be overwhelming and running a small business can be challenging. Every entrepreneur should have access to accurate and up-to-date financial information. Every business deserves to be equipped with the right resources to achieve its purpose and attain success. That is why she is here to help. Sabrina earned her Bachelor of Science in Accounting from Delaware State University and is a certified QuickBooks Advanced Pro advisor. That means that she is, an expert in her field. She's the GOAT. Okay. Throughout her career, she has worked in various industries, including retail, banking, food and beverage, manufacturing, and environmental science. So she's got all the industries down, you guys. Her experience has taught her the value of and given her a passion for helping small businesses. Working in private and public companies of various sizes has taught her to control the data, manage technology, identify the processes, and implement procedures, foster an environment for cross functional collaboration. Continuous improvement and professional development are essential to growth. Ask questions, especially the ones that you think are the dumb ones. Most importantly, she was encouraged to create small businesses that aligned with her life's purpose to improve her life by being in control of her own future. And now she supports other small business owners to do the exact same thing. This is why she started Mowbray Accounting Associates LLC and Nesting Ground Consulting LLC. So she's a serial entrepreneur, y'all. Multiple businesses. As an accountant, she offers various services to individuals and entrepreneurs, including bookkeeping, tax, and software implementation. Her goal is to take the stress out of accounting and help you manage your finances and as effectively as possible. As a business alignment coach, she is dedicated to helping people cultivate their businesses as a tool to improve their lives. Her approach is to create environments that support learning and growth through resources, structure, community, and collaboration. Whether you are starting a new business or looking to grow an existing business, she's here to help you achieve your goals and align your business to support the desires that you have for your life. Please help me welcome Miss Sabrina Trimiew. Thank you for being here, Sabrina. How are you this evening?
Oh, good. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Okay, let's jump right in. So I do want to say if you all have any questions, please please make sure that you drop them in the chat. Yeah, please make sure that you drop them in the chat. Okay, how important is proper bookkeeping for an entrepreneur?
Um, Bookkeeping is very important for an entrepreneur because as entrepreneurs, you need to track your income and your expenses so that you can see what your profit is, so that you can be able to file your taxes, so that you can be able to apply for loans or grants, for you, so you can expand. Bookkeeping is important because it is how we it is how we know what's going on in our business. So
Okay, excellent. Are there different types of bookkeeping? And if there are, what are they and how do they differ?
okay, so bookkeeping, you can there's single entry bookkeeping where it's just you basically um, tracking your income on a spreadsheet, more like spreadsheet, like all your incomes on one spreadsheet. Your income could be on. I'm sorry, if the
Yep.
computer did something glitchy.
Yes, I have no idea what just happened. Keep
Okay,
going.
no problem. Um, so yeah, you have single entry, then you have double entry. Single entry, um, again, is um, tracking your transactions on separate forms. Tracking incomes is on one form, tracking expenses on another. Double entry bookkeeping is when you're using a software, you're tracking your debits and your credits. So assets plus um, liabilities equal owner equity. So that's double sided. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other.
Okay.
So those are the methods of bookkeeping. Um, Now, do you want to know how you can do it? Spreadsheet, software.
Um, well, if you have a recommendation on whether you should, so to your point, whether you should do it spreadsheet or whether you should do it software, and then between the two different ones, so single entry and double entry, is there a recommendation one over the other?
So no, it's mostly preference. Like, so starting off, you might not be able to um, be able to use a system. So you might maybe using a spreadsheet, or you may be using so there's certain apps out there, or certain software that just tracks income from a proprietor's viewpoint. So I would say like QuickBooks, Self-Employed. There's some other apps like I think I forget what the app is called, but those apps where you can just slide for personal expenses or slide for business expenses, all of that is in one. You know, it's it's just tracking income and expenses. But when you get to double-sided bookkeeping, when you get to the like the higher level applications like QuickBooks or other ERP systems, that's double-sided, and that's when you need to understand. You need to know how to do debits and credits. You need to know what that look like. In a single entry bookkeeping system, you don't necessarily have to know what debits and credits are. You just need to know what's income and what's expenses.
Okay.
Personal, what's business expenses.
Okay. And can you elaborate on the importance of making sure that your personal expenses are separated from your business expenses, and what the ramifications are if they are commingled?
Absolutely. So definitely, first of all, having your account separated makes it so much easier to do your bookkeeping, right? Because if even as a sole proprietor or sole proprietor, you're not necessarily required to have a separate account, because you are you're not incorporated. You don't have an LLC or S corp, but you do want to make it easy to separate your transactions.
Okay.
Um, and if I'm separating my personal expense, if I'm separating my transactions, and I know my accounting is cheaper.
Okay.
I know when I'm going through this, I know when I'm going through this account, these transactions are for my business. Um, so that's one reason why it's important. The other reason it's important is if you are an LLC or S corp or a partnership, you have to separate. It is a requirement to have your business funds separated, um, or you pierce the corporate veil. I'm not a lawyer, but when you start talking to lawyers, or you start hearing other business professionals talk about the LLC protection, it's that you protect your business by keeping your business and your personal separate.
Okay. 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 Excellent. Um, so you talked about single and double. Is one more common than the other?
Um, not necessarily, not necessarily. It would really depend on how you decide to track it, how you decide to track your bookkeeping. Um, if you're using single entry, is just really simple. It's simplified. Now, when you're working with bookkeepers and accountants, we use software that um, because where you have to understand what a debit and a credit can do to an account. When you're using a single entry, it's just easier for entrepreneurs. So, like I said, you'll have you had a register, you had your income register, you have your expense register, you have you your expenses and your income. So all your income will be on one register, all your expenses will be on another. Everything is just like separate.
Okay.
It doesn't feed into each other.
Okay.
um, I didn't explain that. Yeah, it doesn't feed into each other. um it's like, okay, look at it as a monthly budget. So you got all your income for the month, you put that in the income slot. You got all your expenses, so you got advertising, you got supplies, all these other expenses. You're just putting those in a budget. Really, single 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 entry bookkeeper look like. Everything is just going into one sheet.
Okay. Okay. So I have some questions from the audience. So the first one is, what is the best way to add money from your personal account to your business?
So you could transfer money, add it cash. It doesn't matter how you add it in, because when you add money to your business, that's considered an investment. So now you do want to make sure that when you're putting an investment in, that is categorized as an investment and not income, because it's two different things. Now, so if you were using a app, so say if you were using an app like to track your expenses, and you were a 1099 employee, and you also had income from your job, and say maybe you don't have your you don't have your you have everything going into a personal account. So say if you're doing Instacart, you got everything going into your personal account, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to label when your income is coming in, you got income from Instacart, but then you have your income from working. So you separate that income. Like, this is the income that I have from working is not money that I'm putting into my business. It's just personal income. The income I have from Instacart is money that is from my business.
Okay.
If I had money that if it was just a money deposit, that's me adding money to my business. That's not income.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Okay. So if you're doing, I guess, the spreadsheet method, would you suggest that you note that this is an owner investment? And then if you're using a system, typically systems have the opportunity for you to select that as an option. Like, it's
Yeah,
already
they had.
there that
Yeah.
it is okay. And then I know that there is, and off the top of my head, I wish I could know what the document is called, but there is certain kind of like legal documentation that you should also have that notes what the owner has invested in the company. Now, I know
Yeah.
that's initial, but I don't know if that's every single time, if that's necessary that be updated every single time the owner invests in the company, or if it's just startup when that type of documentation is needed.
So that's a good point to bring up. When you're doing your bookkeeping, it is important to understand what your business structure is. Once you understand what your business structure is, you understand what kind of legal documents you need to have.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to be if you're a sole proprietor, you don't have to have those legal documents.
Right.
If you are an LLC, you have your operating agreement. If you're a
Mm-hmm.
partnership, you also have an operating agreement, um, or articles of organization. Sorry, and basically it spells out who put in what
What?
percentage of ownership,
Mm-hmm.
what was invested. Um, to be honest, a lot of people start businesses and they don't have that. They just kind of start just putting money into accounts, and so the way you track that is if you have a partner, you put who's like this partner put in this amount, this partner put in that amount, and you have separate accounts that tracks their investment in the company. So it tracks their investments and their withdrawals.
Okay, excellent. So I have another question from the audience. How do you know when you need a bookkeeper or your business is ready for a bookkeeper?
Um, ooh. So I mean, so if your business is growing, if um, if you find a task too hard for you to do on your own, you find yourself asking a lot of questions. Um, I do think it is, even if you don't think you can afford it, I think you should look into, have a consultation with a bookkeeper to get an understanding about when does this make sense for my business? What are my goals for my business? Um, some people start off with $500. Some people may have big money to invest. It depends on what your goals are for the business, what your budget is, and yeah, there's a lot of other little caveats, but
Okay, okay. Let's see. I have one other question from the audience. Is it possible to charge off large amounts without any revenue?
So, I would have to say no. Um, and you may want to definitely talk to your tax professional. But if you're not bringing in, the point of having a business is to make profit. Now, if your business, if you attempted to have a business and it just didn't go well, you can close a business and write based off of your tax, based off of that, do a final tax return and maybe write it off there. But to write off loss, you can't just write off loss without revenue.
Okay. So does that mean I'm trying to figure out how to rephrase the question. So is that if, say, for instance, if the person invested whatever amount of money and they have $100 worth of revenue, so it's a small amount of revenue, but of course their expenses, what they invested into the business, is substantially larger. Does that qualify, or does it literally have to be not necessarily an equal amount, but does it have to be substantial enough revenue versus the amount that they're looking to write off? Like, is that a factor?
I feel like that gets more into like taxes. Taxes.
Right.
Now, and when you think about that, like when you think about taxes, is what was your intent for the business? Like, so, why are you writing this off? Is there, are you going to be continuing? Like, because you have highs and lows in the business. You have
Right.
times when you're gonna have losses. You have times when you're gonna have expense. You're gonna have gains. And so now, if you have a loss during that time, then it's just the cost of business. So when you filing your tax returns is going to go like this, depending on what your business is doing.
Right.
So as far as saying write off, it might be like really generic. It's like, okay, why are we writing this off, and what kind of business you have? Because there's so many levels. If you have a rental, it's different. The laws is different when you write off certain things. Passive income, again, that's kind of getting more into taxes, but yeah.
Okay. I love it that you all are coming in with great questions. Okay, so what's the best way to manage your books throughout the year?
Woo. Okay. Honestly, I would say if you can commit to weekly, if you can do monthly, by the time you do yearly, the opportunities to catch any tax breaks, or find see how you were doing in the business, it just kind of dwindles down.
Okay.
So the more active you are in your books, the more you know what's going on, the more decisions that you can make. Like your books is up to date, so you know what you got going on. So I would say how you see fit, at least once a month.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with at least once a month. While it's your business, I like the same way that with your own personal money, you should be looking at your money and reviewing your finances, reviewing your credit card statement, reviewing your, bank account to make sure that what's coming out, you actually did authorize to be removed, and then to confirm that what you thought was coming in actually is coming in. Depending on how you manage your finances, so on and so forth, you may have enough in your account to have missed a couple of checks and
Yep.
not really have noticed it. So that's the reason why I say make sure that you're constantly checking on a personal basis, but that also qualifies for your business. You want to make sure that what you've authorized to go out has gone out, so that you're not missing anything, that maybe the system didn't process something correctly. So to your point, I think at a minimum on a monthly basis, you should be kind of looking at everything and doing kind of a checks and balances. Definitely.
And to add to that, you could miss opportunities of money that was supposed to come in.
Yes.
I've seen that happen.
Yes.
Because right now in this day and age, we can sell on so many different places. We can process our money in so many different places. And so if you didn't catch a payout, if you're not going to wherever the payout is coming from and comparing it to Yeah, it's you want to track what you got going on in and out. So
Okay. Another question. How do I know if my bookkeeper is doing a good job of managing my business's money and setting me up for the most growth moving forward?
okay, um, I would have to say that's a little like okay. So how active are you in checking in your accounts? Do you have access to your accounts? Um, the level of service that was agreed upon between you and your bookkeeper. You, because all bookkeepers don't provide the same support. They don't provide the same services. So that's something that would be different as well. So the best way you would know is by being in your accounts if you have access. Um, Also looking at your own statements. Um, I think people. So when people hire a bookkeeper, I think they think that that means that they can kind of step away, and that's not true. You still have to play a part in keeping up with your books. It's just deciding on who does what, who's responsible for what. Let me clear on that.
Okay. So is it, I manage my own books. So that's my
Yeah.
disclaimer. So when I preface this question to ask, is it a situation where if you do have a bookkeeper, then you should have the expectation or you should set the expectation that on a minimum of a monthly basis, you're going to send me some form of report that lets me know exactly what's happening, and on a quarterly basis maybe we meet personally, and review what's happened within that quarter. Like how would you kind of manage that? Because I think I'm hoping that that would help Sally get to the point where she feels like, okay, I fully understand what's going on, and I feel like they're doing good managing my money. If there were more touch points, and to your point, like, of course Sally can look at things on her own, but she's also delegated that to someone else who that's supposed to be their area of expertise. So should there be checkpoints, or is it just kind of a not, you throw your hands up, but you give it to them with the expectation that they're going to do their part, and then
Mhm.
you only meet at tax time? Like, how often should be you be meeting with your bookkeeper, or your tax, your accountant, to be sure that both of you are on the same page with what's going on?
So that is determined. Normally, that is determined in the beginning when you're signing the contract, when you're
Mhm.
starting the service together. You guys should have created a cadence of how often you're going to meet, what the requirements are, what reports you're going to get. And again, it also for some people, for some bookkeepers, that means like the service price goes up. Like, so what is the price? How much are you paying for your service? Are you paying for detailed bookkeeping, or are you paying for budgeted bookkeeping? Like, there's so many. It's almost like Burger King in a sense with bookkeepers. You get some bookkeepers like you can have it your way, and other people bookkeepers is like, hey, this is what I do, this is what I don't do, this is what you're responsible for, this is what I'm responsible for. So look at those agreements. Um, what are the responsibilities? Am I just Some bookkeepers will not will when you're doing bookkeeping and you got your bank feeds attached, they will only do what's attached to the bank feed. That doesn't take into consideration you may use your personal card, or you may use you may have a cash expense that they're only responsible for what they see, and if they don't see it, then they're not responsible for it. So um, as bookkeeping could be done is there's such a variety in the way the service is provided. I would say like you would need to kind of shop around a little bit.
Okay. um Oh, this is a good one. What qualities should you look for in a bookkeeper?
Ooh, okay. I think you should have a bookkeeper um, who has some experience. For one, is we're all entrepreneur, have the entrepreneurial spirit. There's a lot of programs saying, hey, you can do bookkeeping work from home. um you got to want to do it as well. Like bookkeep bookkeeping, tracking each transaction is a lot, especially if you have accounts that you have more than 100 transactions. Some people charge based off of the amount of transactions. um Other qualities is, do your bookkeeper ask you questions about about your business? Because a bookkeeper really is tracking the transaction that's happening in your business. Now accountant will be doing more analyzing of those accounts. But a bookkeeper is the one that's coding, categorizing your expenses. Some bookkeepers will match your receipts for you. Some bookkeepers will not match receipts for you. um, you definitely want to work with someone who you feel comfortable with, who, if you ask questions, they can, if they don't have the answer, they can get back. I mean, somebody who's a little bit, who's organized and have a make you feel comfortable. Um, I don't know.
Would you say that in order for them to, how do I phrase this? Would you say that when looking for a bookkeeper, you should they should absolutely be an accountant as well, or do you think that there are really good bookkeepers that don't have an accounting
Yeah,
background, and so
I do
that's not
believe it.
necessary?
Some accountants, some accountants do not do bookkeeping,
Okay, okay,
because it really is two different. Is
right, right.
They're considered two different tasks, even though they the lines blur. But yeah, I wouldn't say you have to be an accountant. You just need to understand what it is that you're doing, and what are the requirements. So as long as your bookkeeper knows what they're doing, what the requirements are, they're meeting the need that you have, then that's fine.
Okay. Um, do you recommend that those roles are separate? So the person who handles your books versus the person who handles your taxes?
So that depends on your situation. So there are companies that's out there that will do the bookkeeping, and they include tax as well. And so more than likely, when they're doing your bookkeeping and they're doing your taxes, they feel more comfortable doing your taxes because they're doing your bookkeeping,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, then there's, if what's your budget? Can you afford to have both? Can you afford to have someone just doing your bookkeeping? Can you have afford to have someone just doing your taxes? Um,
Is there benefit to having it be the same person to the point that you just said, because they really know what's happening on a day-to-day basis, so they, might automatically know to ask certain questions, where in someone who's just doing your taxes, they're solely going to go off of whatever the information is that you provide them with, and then they're
yes.
not going to ask any extra questions.
But
Yeah, because I
let
know that is from a
me,
personal tax issue.
you say that. Let me say this, okay?
Yes.
Bookkeeping and taxes is two completely different things. And if you go to a tax preparer and you give them a P&L that you haven't vetted, they are just going to put that information in. They don't care about what went where, went who, what, when,
Mhm.
where, why. If you When you sign that form, most of the time they say, we're not responsible for the information in this form.
Yes.
So let's say that. Um, so because my approach is a little different, I believe as a bookkeeper, I guess because of my background in corporate, um, I want to know about your business anyway. So whether I'm doing your taxes or not, I want to know about your business. I want to know all these little things so that when I am doing your bookkeeping, it's easy for me.
Okay.
Um, Now, is it a benefit? Yes. But I also see a benefit in, if I'm good at bookkeeping and you have someone who's good at taxes, I see a benefit in us working together to support our client.
Okay.
So it it really is, just depends on the situation.
Okay, so I think that you brought up 2 points that I would say would have gone along the lines with the previous question that I believe Ranisha asked about qualities for a bookkeeper. So certainly someone who is really getting into your business, like they want to know they're asking a lot of questions, and they're not just going off of what you're providing them. They're going to get into your nitty gritty. And then the other one is um, a bookkeeper who's willing to be collaborative. So you
Yeah.
said if you have, if you already have a tax preparer or a tax accountant that you work with, and you mention to them, hey, I already have someone I'm comfortable with. I've been working with them for a little while. I'd like to continue working with them. If they provide a lot of pushback, then, potentially they're not the best option. So definitely somebody who wants to be collaborative. So I appreciate you bringing up those two things. Okay, so I love it. You guys keep coming with the questions in the comments. I love it. Okay, can I write off the fees I pay for having a bookkeeper?
Yes, 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 yes. When you think what I think as business owners, we think when we think about bookkeeping, it goes to the bottom of the list, right? But then we take on all these other expenses, coaching, at buying laptop, just all these different things. And all of those are write-offs. A lot of us are looking for write-offs. How about getting a good write-off that should give you a return on your investment, right? Because when you think about it, some bookkeepers. So I have a little bit of a tax background because I do training throughout the year on taxes because tax law is always changes. Then I also in memberships in other organizations that supports accountants and CPAs and bookkeepers, right? And so when you look at um, those, hold on, I lost my train of thought. When you look at those expenses, yeah, I can write them off, but now I can kind of track these things and plan for my taxes, right? Because tax planning starts in the beginning of the year, not the end of the year.
Yes.
And in order to and to keep up with your tax planning, you got to bookkeep. You got to keep up with your books. And so yes, bookkeeping fees can be written off, and as soon as you can afford to have it, I say get it. Because especially if you're dealing with someone who has some awareness of tax write-offs, they can be showing you, telling you, hey, this is why we categorize this way. This is why we do. This is why your books are set up this way. It's so much more support that you can get in your business.
Okay. So I have a question for you. I know that quite often a lot of people are like, oh, if I charge something on my card, then no, I don't need a receipt because it's on my card. How important is it that you actually keep that physical receipt? And that's via, if you just take a picture of it so that you make sure that you have it and then you kind of file that somewhere, or that you physically have the actual paper. How important is that?
First of all, it's so important. You know why? Because despite the fact that the IRS says uh, you don't need a receipt for purchases $75 or lower, if I have a receipt, and so if I'm even in single entry and double entry accounting, whatever software, whatever you're using, if I have a transaction and it's $20 and I'm going back maybe 2 months down the line, if I have the receipt, I can categorize it. I know what it was for, better management. And then also you have your source document. You have your support for your transaction. So if it ever got audited, there's no question at all about it.
Yeah.
And now I might be the wrong person to answer this because I am a trained accountant. Those are some of the things I had to do. I had to have source documents to match to the transaction. So for me, I'm always going to say, go ahead, keep your receipt.
Right. Well, so no, I feel like that's valid, because, and I can only speak for the way that I do it, but literally I have two businesses. I have a like a plastic envelope or like file folder for each one of them, and when I make a purchase, then I just put the receipt in the
Mhm.
envelope that belongs to it. So then when it comes around to the time of the month where I need to look at everything, then I can reconcile everything and I can be like, yep, that makes sense, that makes sense, that makes sense. So I have everything. So that is, a little tip if someone, needs something or is trying to figure out. But then alternatively is take a picture. If you're a person who's like, I'm a minimalist, I don't want a whole lot of extra papers,
Yep.
I don't have to keep up with, where it is, so on and so forth. I 100% understand that. So take a picture of it and then
Mhm.
email it to yourself and have a folder in your email that's called taxes or bookkeeping, and all of your receipts are going there.
That's
So
one of my tips.
you have it.
That is one of my tips.
Okay.
That is one of my tips. But you now have the option to have your receipts text to you or email to you. And then if you're doing business online, you have your receipts emailed as anyway.
Email automatically.
So you definitely should have a file folder with your receipts. If you're using apps, you can take the receipt and take a picture of the receipt and put it in the software. One thing I don't think people don't realize. So depending on the app you're using, if you have a receipt that you had that was cash, I know in QuickBooks, if I have a cash receipt, I get to I get to add that as an expense. So
Okay.
remember earlier I was saying when you have your accounts attached to your bookkeeping software, it's only picking up what's in the feed, the bank
Right.
feed. But if you take a picture of a receipt that was may not have been attached to the bank feed, right? Or it was cash, you get to add it into the
Okay, that makes
accounting
sense.
software as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. What do you hold on, let me make sure. Okay. What are two top issues most entrepreneurs make when it comes to bookkeeping? That's an excellent question. Not
um
doing it. Doing it wrong.
one of it would be so right um with bookkeeping everything should be coming into one place, one source, right? And I think we missed the mark where we just rely on how that information comes into our bank feed. If you're using Cash App or Venmo, or PayPal, or any other platform, when you process transactions in their platform, they take out fees, right? And so when them fees comes into the bank feed into your software,
You're not
it's
including them.
the fees is not in there. So um, it's net. So you're not calculating your gross income. Yeah, your gross income is kind of miscalculated, and you're not capturing the fees that you're paying out to your suppliers or the merchants. So that's one big one. I feel like a lot of people miss out on because we have so many ways that we can collect money. Um, and then we're not tracking them all. They're not being tracked in our bookkeeping software, or they're not all being tracked properly. And so yeah, that's one of the biggest mistakes they're making right now.
I will definitely say that that was one of the things when I went through to do my taxes. To your point, I have multiple places
Mhm.
that I can be paid from, and it was literally pulling reports from each one of those because I
Yes.
was like, "Are we gonna track these fees? I want to track
Hmm.
everything so
Hmm.
that I have everything in there, so nobody comes to want to talk to me later because I gave it all to you up front."
Yep.
So yeah, no, I'm with you. You definitely need to make sure that you're capturing all of that. And then is there another one that you can think of?
Mm-mm. Not tracking your expenses at all. Whether that's writing it down, or putting it in a spreadsheet, just tracking what's coming in, what's going out. I mean, that's easy. Single entry is easy as that. What's coming in, what's going out, right? I think that's the second biggest thing. Not tracking anything at all, because how do
Okay.
you know what's going on?
Okay. Excellent. Okay. What do you do if you lose a receipt or don't have a receipt?
I mean, in those instances, I think you make you categorize it. What can you do? You don't have the receipt. If you can't if you can't get it back, maybe you have your bank statement, right? You have your bank statement. You just put a memo. This is what this is for. If you remember it, um, it's not much you can do if you don't have the receipt, unless you can go get a copy or um, no. I take that back. If you're using one of those little cards, you can always go to the store and ask them to reprint them. It depends. It depends. If it means that much, if it's a big item, you can go back to the store and ask for a reprint. If the store does that, but if it's a small item and you know what it is, categorize it. It's okay.
Okay. And I would say, I know that in the system that I use, like there is a section where you can add notes. So if I
Mhm.
don't have a receipt for something, but I know what it is,
Yep.
and maybe the merchant doesn't really call out whatever the
Yep.
item was, then I'll add in the note, this was for X, Y, and Z.
I,
Um,
okay. Oh,
no,
I do want to add that as a third tip. In your software, whenever you see a memo, the more detail you can give yourself, the better, right? So add your detail so that you can know what you have going on, because Walmart receipts look the same, right? What did you buy this time from Walmart? Or what did you get from this place? Especially if you frequent it and it's different things anytime, use the memo. Use the memo line to your advantage.
yeah, I would certainly say I agree with that, and especially when it comes to Walmart. Like I'm a financial coach. However, this past year I went to Walmart and purchased a substantial amount of like colored pencils and crayons.
Mhm.
And I literally made a note in the system that those colored pencils and crayons were for a launch party that I did that included the coloring books that I have that I provide. So that if anyone asked and they were like, okay, these don't logically go with what you do as a business. So how is this like, are you sure these weren't school supplies for your kids? Then I have an explanation for, why this thing that may not seem like an ordinary person may not think that it goes with my business, it actually does. And I don't know that it's necessary to be that detailed, but I would rather cover myself um, and on the front end than be on the back end and be like, I know it was for the business, but I don't know what this was for.
Well,
I
let
would
me
rather just have the notes put in the system.
let me just say this. Well, you had an event though, so that's your proof.
Right.
I had an event, and this event included these supplies.
Right. And
So,
that's what I noted to,
so
like
that's
I said,
that's
make
it.
sure.
It covers these. It covers
Yes.
these.
So I love this. That is one of the reasons why I said the envelope thing. So one of the statements is keeping receipts is hard. And I knew that someone was going to be like, "What about these receipts?" So that's one of the reasons why I asked the question, and I, made the recommendation about taking the picture on your
Take the
phone,
picture.
like as soon as you get the receipt, right there in the store before you walk out of line. Snap that picture and then kind of email it to yourself, put it in the tax folder in your email, so on and so forth, or in the bookkeeping folder in your stuff.
Mhm.
So I love this statement. So I'm gonna post it. The IRS can look in my purse and find whatever receipts they need, because I know that there are too many. I mean, it's laughable, but I know there are too many people who are. I mean, that's legit. Like that's the way that it is. I literally in my wallet, it's got two sides, and so one side is for personal stuff, and then the other side is for business stuff. And sometimes they do get commingled. And sometimes my daughter decides that she wants to go through my wallet, and then I have to rummage around. So I am 100% like,
Me
okay,
too.
I don't know what happened to the receipt. It's my daughter's fault. Will the IRS take that? I have a 2-year-old. That's my explanation. I don't have anything else.
As
Um,
long as it's not a big one. So my thing is, if it's a big one, oh, but if it's a small one, because I too put my receipts in my pocket. I'll put my receipt in my pocketbook if I'm moving. But if I have a chance, I'll uh, add it right into my bookkeeping software. So now I can set it and forget it. I mean, I'm still putting a receipt in my bag if I take the picture anyway. But yeah, um, it's
Okay, so this is a really, really good question. When applying for capital from investors or banks, what role does your bookkeeping play in that process?
Ooh. So um, they want to see, first of all, they want to see that um, you're able to pay back the loan. You what is on your what is going on in your business, because really that's what the bookkeeping creates: your balance sheet. It creates your profit and loss statement or income statement. It creates your cash flow statement. That will be more on a double book uh, a higher level. But the two main for, reports would be a balance sheet and a profit and loss. And so when these companies are looking at your financial statements to make a decision on if they want to give you money, um, basically your bookkeeping is what creates these forms. Um, it's what creates the transactions is happening daily feeds into these monthly and yearly reports. And so accounting is the language of business. That includes bookkeeping as well. And so this is telling the financial story of your business. So
Okay, excellent. Keep the questions coming, guys. Okay, so I'm going to circle back. Is so we've done a lot of talking. So my question is bookkeeping something that a small business owner can do for themselves? Like fairly okay if they have a system in place to do so? Or I think somebody previously asked, is it really something that should be left to the experts? Like, and be for real.
I
Like,
mean,
don't say,
I'm gonna
don't try
let
to
me
sugarcoat it. Like,
No, I'm not. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Okay, so I started Marbury Accounting Associates. That was my first business. Um, that was like, I'm doing the books for you. I realized that my target audience for that business at the time, my my price levels were too high. They weren't ready for it. They didn't understand why they needed it, right? So I'm like, okay, I still want to serve the communities that I want to serve. How do I do that? So I separated out. I decided to create nesting grounds as a do-it-yourself bookkeeping support, right? And so I do believe that people can do their own bookkeeping, but I believe you should definitely do a training. You should understand, like, it should be a process about knowing your business, knowing if it's now there's some difficulty. There are some businesses that are the bookkeeping or the tax situation is a lot more difficult. I say if it's go ahead and pay somebody else to do it. You don't even want to worry about the mistakes. But if you're in a service-based business, or a business where is doing bookkeeping is is manageable, and is manageable for you, and you have some support, I say you can do it. It definitely is possible, especially if you understand your business. um you understand your business. You know where all your money is coming from. You know where all your information is coming from. If Yeah, you definitely can do it. Because I also believe there's some people who have bookkeeping services who their bookkeeper, or they don't know everything, right? They don't know that you bought assets. You're not tracking your assets. They don't know that you have loans. You're not tracking your loans. Like, so I do believe it's just a matter of how much time and effort you have. Um,
okay.
you know.
Um, I think you answered some of these before, but I'll go ahead and ask this anyway. What are the top 5 things that entrepreneurs need to focus on or keep in mind when they're doing their bookkeeping?
Hmm. Okay, top 5 things. What are your goals? What are your business goals? Um, so If you want to get a loan, or if you're going to have somebody else, if you're going to get a grant, how you how you structure your books, so your chart of accounts, how you structure your chart of accounts matter. Like, your chart of accounts is the way we categorize our expenses, right? And so you have the advertising line. In the advertising line, you can put all of your advertising activities to one line, or you can separate your advertising activities out by Facebook, website, ads, details. So, what are your goals for your business? Do you just want to have tax ready books where, listen, when it gets to that tax return, they all going to be in these certain sections. So, why do it matter? Or do I want to be able to make more decisions based off of the details?
Okay.
Um, the second one would be this. Um, if you can add your receipts to your software, or create a folder, have a system for managing your receipts. Not only your receipts, your invoices, your if you have vendors, POs, like just all of the documents that you use in your business, that whether it's income coming in or money go if whether it's money coming in or money going out, track that information. My third tip would be, um, understand where you're processing money. Where do you have money? Do you have any? Are you using Cash App? Are you using Venmo? Are you using PayPal? Are you using the bookkeeping software? Understand where you're processing transactions, because I just, again, I feel like that's a big miss. A lot of times you only focus on the accounts that you see in your bookkeeping, and uh, is all your accounts accounted for? Is all your business accounts accounted for? Credit cards, loans, lines of credit. Fourth one I would say is, um, yes. Bookkeeping. Hmm, Third one. Okay. Bookkeeping will allow you, especially, so if you're using your software and you're putting your if you're invoicing out of your software, you can track your cash flow, right? So if you have an invoice, you can see what money you now can see what money you have coming in. If you put in your bills in your software, you can see what money is going to be going out. So it can help you with planning. So if you have an opportunity to use your software and until its fullest capability, I say add your bills to your software, invoice out of your software. That way you can get a better financial picture, because your data is in there. You know what's coming. You got a better idea of what's coming in and going out.
Okay. I paraphrased.
That's perfect. Sorry.
No, 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 that's fine.
And start where you are. How about that? Bookkeeping is overwhelming, especially if you don't know how to do it. Just start where you are. Sit down, take it month by month, and next year can be better. The more you're gonna, it's a learning process. It gets better. It gets better with time. Um, yeah, and ask for help.
Okay. Yeah. I love that you said start where you are and it does get better with time. So I consider myself to be good with money. I'm a financial coach. I help people with their personal finances, so on and so forth. And I was recently, well, when I was preparing everything for my taxes, I was talking to one of my girlfriends who's also an entrepreneur. And I was like, child, child. I was like, I thought I had
Mhm.
done a fairly good job with my bookkeeping, and my tax software told me that it should have taken, I think, 3 hours for me to do my taxes, and it took me 13 hours to do my taxes.
Ooh.
Now, that being said, I am a, check 50 times, cut once
Yeah.
type person, especially when it comes to taxes, because I don't want no smoke, like, at all.
You, you and
Uh,
me either.
so that could have had something to do with it, as well. And I like utilize the call a tax expert
Mhm.
on numerous occasions. So I will
Mhm.
give myself some grace there. But to the point, like, it did show me, some holes where I was like, okay, you thought you were doing this a little bit better than what you could have been doing. So things get better with time. And to your point, like, bookkeeping may not, is not something that, while there are some similarities, I think there are definitely some differences, as well. Personal, managing your personal finances
Yes.
versus managing business finances. So provide yourself with some grace. It is a learning, it's a learning process, it's a learning experience, and you will get better over time. But I love the fact that you said, seek out training, and then, seek out consultations where you can, ask questions or whatever the case may be if you need to. So we have another question. I'm a new entrepreneur. Are there services available to help me learn to manage my books for myself as I'm setting things up? Yes, there are. And this young lady here can help you with that. Please, Sabrina, tell them about your DIY service.
So again, I started my do it yourself service where, initially it starts off with a bookkeeping implementation where we kind of I get to learn your business and identify what version of software you need to use. So right now I do focus on QuickBooks. So there are different levels, and I want to know which one do you need. We got 4 options. What's the best option for you right now? Then I want to know. I want to know about what is your business doing? What's your business goals? So during the bookkeeping implementation process, we kind of get a little bit into um, all the information, um, setting up your books so that you can start doing your bookkeeping with the confidence that your foundation has been set, right? And then after implementation, then we can move on to monthly services. You have an option to move on to monthly services where you get support. So we'll have, depending on their level of service, maybe weekly meetups to go through. Let's go through our bookkeeping. Let's do this task. And maybe a monthly session. It just depends on the option, the level of service. And yeah, so um, it's just about getting you set up and supporting you until you feel like you're confident enough to do it yourself, or you can just stay and hang around.
So I have a question. Is this one on one or in a group setting?
And so it's group. The reason why it's group is because it's more cost effective,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Um,
Who
it
wants to trying to
so
save coins, especially when you're starting a business?
Yeah, so the idea is, you get a check, you get some checklists, you get guides. You're able to kind of get with me and ask me some questions as we're going through setting it up, because it's not it's do it yourself done with you. Like, we're doing it together, but you're going to be doing the work, and I'll be there to
Handhold you.
support you
I
along the
love
way.
that. Yeah.
Um, so yes, um, but I thought I lost my train of thought, but yes, it's group sessions. I'm still building this product out, because as an entrepreneur, you gotta launch one thing and then move it along. But the main thing is we need to implement your books. We need to set up your books so that you can get on to the next thing.
Okay. So I know that thank you for that.
Sorry.
Um,
Mhm.
You guys keep the questions coming. Y'all are on fire. I absolutely love all these questions. They are great questions. So I have a question for you, and that is, I know that you do QuickBooks, and far too often I hear people on social media and online saying, "Yeah, QuickBooks." Even my one of the tax experts that I talked to, because I use what I have been using is Wave as the system that integrates with my credit cards and with my bank account and so on and so forth. Um, but they recommended that I use QuickBooks because that integrates with my tax system, which Wave did not. Um,
Wait,
and
what? What do you use? What did you use for your taxes?
TurboTax.
It didn't.
It had a list of things, and Wave just happened to not be one of them.
Oh, okay.
So my question is, people keep saying that QuickBooks is free, and all I've seen is a 30-day, or that there's a free option, and all I've seen is the 30-day trial, and then it goes into a paid option. Am I missing something?
So, QuickBooks does offer you a free trial. After your free trial, depending on the terms, it might go straight to what the regular monthly rate is. I know there's a other option to sometimes they run like 3 months off of 50%. Um, but a lot of times, depending on who you're working with, um, it's sometimes easy to get. It's better to get the software. And this, again, this depends on who you're working with. Some bookkeepers would are able to get the software at different prices, and now it's up to them what they want to what they want to charge. um some bookkeepers offer some bookkeepers include the software in the service, so that would be another thing. That would be another thing I would look at, is if you're working with someone, hey, is this included? That's another question to ask. If you're working with someone, I could, even if you pay, you could get your discount for 12 months. You can get a discount for 12 months because I've set you up, and I've passed on my discount to you
To
for
you.
a certain amount
Okay.
of time. But after 12 months, it
Then it
goes
would
up.
go back into.
So yeah, it just really depends on how you get into QuickBooks, whether
Okay.
it's online or
And my next question is, I guess the base, like their entry level QuickBooks, is
yeah.
that substantial enough for I guess, standard LLC? Because there's like, I think 4 different tiers of it. And I've seen, like, when I've gone through, different things, I don't have payroll to worry about, so on and so forth. So I'm like, oh, I don't think that these higher ones are necessarily something that I need at this present point. But do you have any recommendations as to that? And you may have to look at it to make a recommendation.
So the best thing to do is to look at so I know they have it there. When you go to QuickBooks, if you're going through QuickBooks Online, there is a way to basically answer a survey or a questionnaire, that will tell you which version of the software you need.
Okay.
um, Another thing is, like, so one thing I like to do um, when I'm working with someone is, if they're not in the software already, hey, let's talk about what you're using in your business now, how you want to invoice. Because if you're invoicing on another platform, um, and you're not invoicing in here, that matters. If you're tracking your inventory, if you have inventory in another software, and you don't need to track it here, then you don't need the version that has that feature.
Right. Right.
Um, if you have a app to track your time, you don't need to do that in QuickBooks. So each level offers some other features, and if the feature that you absolutely need isn't at the higher level, then you go with what you need. And the great thing about QuickBooks is even if you start at a lower level, so say if you budget wise, I have budget restraints, so I need to go at the lower level because I can't, even though I need all this other things, you can grow with the software, right? So really, it's really more so digging into what are you using in your business from other softwares, because we got other people to process invoices, um, you got payment gateways, got all these other options, Square, POS systems. What is your business?
Right. Yeah.
So it's
Nine.
really to me, and that's why I like the bookkeeping implementation, because to me it's like we really get to understand like exactly what is it we need, what can we do it out, and what integrates into the software. So
Okay. Okay. So I know that you're like a QuickBooks guru. Is that the only software that you would recommend? Are there any other softwares that you feel are comparable, or that you would say, you know what, you certainly could use these, or you could use QuickBooks as well?
yeah, so there is there's a zero x xero. There is Wave, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
There's Accounting Suite. Um, that's another software that I do like. Then you have what is this? Gosh, I can't remember this. So let me look really quick because I think it's bothering me that I really lost it. But then you have like there are so many other options um, that are not QuickBooks. Let me see, because I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Um, this is gonna drive me nuts.
While you are pulling that up, so I do have another question that came in. Do bookkeeping softwares allow you to set goals and track them?
It depends on it. So that depends on the software, right? Um, and so when you're looking at software, HoneyBook, I wouldn't call that bookkeeping software. I would call that because are you mapping your bank accounts into that software?
Yeah, it's definitely a CRM.
It's a CRM.
You can track your expenses inside of it. So it does give you an option to track your expenses, and it already has your income that is coming through HoneyBook, because HoneyBook is one of the services that I use. But it does have an option for you to track expenses. So I think that it can provide some things. I don't know if I would solely use it as a bookkeeper, or let me rephrase, I don't presently solely use it as a bookkeeping software, but it does have that option for you to be able to track things a little bit better.
So the thing about that, so again, I believe the data should flow into a source. That CRM is only concerned with stuff that you are invoicing out of it. It's not connected to your bank feed. It's not connected to your credit cards. It's not connected to your loans. So whatever you're doing in there should kind of flow back into your system. Because if you notice, HoneyBook connects to QuickBooks. So when you're picking your software and you're looking at features, it just depends on what the company is providing. QuickBooks not only can you, so you have Mile IQ. You want to track your miles, right? You got Mile IQ is a mile tracking app. It's about $50 for the year. But with QuickBooks, it's included. It's an option. You have receipt management. That's included with QuickBooks, but you can also go out and get an Expensify or a receipt bank, like other apps that tracks receipts. So when you're looking at your software and you're looking at your prices, you just want to you need to understand what it is that you want the software to do, and is it in your budget? The reason why I really like QuickBooks is because for that one price, I feel like you get enough to hold you over until you're ready to pay for in a one-off, something that you like better. Like I have this one subscription fee that I'm paying for, right? So I'm tracking my miles in here. But later on, I really would like Mile IQ. So when my budget can allow me to add on a software that I like, I can go do that. But until then, this software here, and again, there's multiple softwares that does more than one thing. Let me use this software until it's time for me to expand into others.
Right.
Um,
Um, so to Renisha's question, I personally have not seen anything that has a goal setting or tracking feature in it. Have you seen any bookkeeping software that does?
I think it would be like so to me, that would be considered like a budget. If you're talking about like business goals, like budget wise, yeah, you can create budgets and track your months. But what kind of goals?
Revenue goals
Yeah,
or yeah,
revenue
I
goals
would
would be
assume, yeah,
that would be
anything.
a
If
budget to
you're
me.
trying to, because the thought process is if I can get everything related to my money in this one place.
Yes.
Ranisha, you just created a business idea. So create that software,
Yeah,
create
that's a
that.
budget.
Yes, create that system that allows you, that'll integrate. So it could be your own thing. So it's business goals, and then it'll
Budget.
integrate with your bookkeeping system and so on and so forth. Goals to compare
That's a budget.
against cash flow reports. Okay.
Yeah, I would say that's a budget. Yeah. So in order to create a budget, you have to have a benchmark. So you can get a benchmark from the industry, or you get a benchmark from the information that's already in your bookkeeping. So say you started your business in 2022. So you had 2022, and then now you got 2023, right? You can now compare your numbers year to year, right? And you can compare your expenses and your transactions from year to year, and then create a budget based off of what you've already been doing. So that's one thing that we did in corporate. At the end of the year, they had a budget. This is what we want to spend here. This is what we want to make here. And then every month we would compare it. How are we doing to this budget? So that would be a goal would be considered creating a budget,
Okay.
or even comparing month over month.
Okay. Okay. Great. Were you able to find that other software that you were looking for?
I did
Keep
not.
coming with the questions, guys. You guys are doing great with the questions. And by all means, when I say guys, I'm not trying to be offensive. So I hope that term is not offensive to anyone, since
Not for me. Hold on.
everyone thus far has been a female. I want to be politically correct. So I need to change my speech. This has been so helpful. I have my notes here for different software types that I can look into. I even had it noted for myself. Like I said, I have been using Wave, that I needed to do some research to make sure that I'm using it effectively. Because it was a while before I even added my credit card onto it. Like it was just tracking my bank. And I was like, you probably should add this
Yeah.
here. So everything is on here and you don't have to go back and forth and look in multiple places.
Yes. That definitely will be. That's a big one. All of your business accounts, it should connect to your software. Now, I take that with a grain of salt, because you don't want to make it difficult. You don't want it to be difficult if you don't know how to, track. This is where double-sided bookkeeping come in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So depending on your setup, how simple it is, you want everything to come in. But if that's not if that's not feasible, you know how you sat there and you did the reports from each place that you collected money from at the end of the year. You gathered all those numbers up and probably put them in one place. Um, yeah. Sorry. What the hell? Okay, I think I might have found it.
Okay.
And it is called. What is it? Dang, they changed
You
the
all
name.
have any other questions? If you have any other questions, please put them in the chat. I greatly appreciate it. We're definitely going to share with you Sabrina's links. Certainly for both Mabry Accounting Associates as well as Nesting Ground. So if you're interested, you can find out, schedule a consultation with her to find out a little bit more about her do-it-yourself services. I know that I'm going to be looking into finding out more information about the do-it-yourself services. But that's on my prayer list, along with a virtual assistant to be able.
Oh, I want one so bad. Oh
Yes,
my
I have a
God.
virtual assistant that I can highly recommend. Quality Virtual Solutions. Um, they're excellent. I've used them like spot here and there, but I want to be able to contract them on a consistent basis. But yes, a bookkeeper, because that's your ministry. Let me support you in your ministry and release it from mine. Is how I feel.
I think that's the goal. When can I release this get this task that I
There you
don't
go.
want to do off, because there's definitely some tasks that I don't want any part of. Um I'm gonna have I think they changed the name of the
Okay.
software.
That's fine. We can circle back with it and
Yeah.
add it to the comments at another point. Yeah, we definitely can circle back with it. So the ones that I have noted that you said were Zero, that actually starts with an X, Wave, which is the system that I use, and they do have a free option, and then there are some paid options that go further on. Accounting Suite, and then excuse me, of course, QuickBooks, which
Yep.
seems to
And,
be like the
and then
Amazon
QuickBooks.
of of bookkeeping services.
Well, they also have a self-employed version. So they have a version that's um, easier for easier for small business owners to use as well.
Okay.
Um, so and that version of the software is a single entry. So it's really simple. It's for people who, if you do your bookkeeping, if you file a Schedule C on your tax return, it's very easy to use, because really all you're doing is just categorizing your transactions, and it's going to it's going to spit out a report at the end of the year with all of the information that you need to put in your tax return. So that's what I mean when I say single entry. It's really simple. You categorize it, it spits out what you need, and you file your taxes.
Okay. And I want to reiterate it okay, somebody's asking if you've heard of FreshBooks.
I've heard of FreshBooks. I have not used FreshBooks, um, but I have heard of it. There are, to be honest, there are a lot of options um, available for software, um, and it's really going to depend on if they have the single entry bookkeeping set up, or double entry. When you get like lower level software, it's just single entry. Wave is double entry.
Hmm.
Even though they have a free version, it's double entry, because
Hmm.
you gotta do gotta make sure that both sides of the balance, the debits
Yeah.
equals the credit. But in other software, it's really just putting those transactions where they go for the business. And if it's a personal, just it takes it out completely. You don't reconcile those those accounts. In Wave and all the other
You don't.
double
Yep.
bookkeeping,
You're
you need to
reconciling.
reconcile it. So
Yeah.
that's the difference as well. But there are a lot of options. You pick one based off of what you want, what you need, what your budget is. First, start where you are, because the other thing that we all need to realize is, as long as you controlling your data, you can pull what the CSV files, you can import that information into a different software when you're ready. So use what you can while you can, and then when
That's
you
a good
get a
one.
budget,
Yeah.
Then you can go
You can go
and
somewhere else
do
if
what
you
you
need.
want to do. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I want to reiterate that regardless of what software you choose, it's the quality of the information that you put
How
into the system
it's the
is
same.
going to be the real factor.
Yep. Yep.
So, to that point, regardless of what system, when you're looking, make sure that they can integrate with the other systems that you're
Yes.
using. So, if it
That's a
can
big deal.
easily integrate with your Honeybook, with your Stripe, with Square, with Venmo, Zelle, with
Yep.
all your options, if they can integrate with those things so it can
Yep.
automatically pull the information in yourself, you can connect it to your bank account, you can connect it to your credit card, so on and so forth. And that's going to make life a lot easier for you versus, okay, I have this system, but it can only connect to my credit card, but it doesn't connect to anything else. So I still have to pull the information from literally everywhere else to get in there, because it's only, to Sabrina's point, it's only going to show you what it has access to. Um, so that's something to consider with whatever service that you use, and then consider the being nickeled and dimed. So I know that there are some services, like she said, that QuickBooks has a mile tracking feature, it's got a receipt tracking feature. I know some other options, they have those features, but it's an additional
Mm-hmm.
$2 a day or an additional $10 a month or whatever, so on top of whatever your standard fee is. So consider those things
Mm-hmm.
as well, on top of versus another system or service that has everything included for one price versus we're going to nickel and dime you to death for all these things that somebody else may have already. But I love the part that you said that start wherever you can, even if it isn't a free option, because you can always download a CSV and then upload it into another system. So that's certainly something to consider. I love that part.
Perfect.
I love that recommendation. Well, if you guys don't have any other, or if you all don't have any other questions, Sabrina, I want to sincerely thank you. Before you
Mhm.
go, please, for me in the comments, put your links
Okay.
so that everyone knows how to contact you. Um, and you are also a business alignment coach. So while you're I don't want to stop you from putting your links in the chat, because I definitely want everyone to have access to those. But you're also a business alignment coach. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do in that space?
So, as a business alignment coach, one thing I realize is there's so many resources out here for us. We are resources to each other. It's just more about connecting businesses with the resources that they need, and just supporting each other all as business owners. So, um, as an accountant, I've had partnerships with payroll companies. I've worked with many different companies, and so I was like, I know where all these resources is. I want to align. I want to help people by aligning them with the resources that they need in their business. And so, as a business alignment coach, I'm just about. It's for me. It's about community, creating a community that is supportive, that gives you information to grow in your business, um, and provide and let you know that you're not alone. Community, right? Is Entrepreneurship is pretty lonely, and it's nice to kind of have some people to lean into. I'm sorry, I was looking for the chat that I lost. I see private chat. I don't see an option. There you go. Sorry.
Okay,
There you
perfect.
go.
I will grab it. So I am going to add her link right now. Perfect. There we go. So that is the link if you would like to connect with Sabrina and pick her brain a little bit more. If you have any personal questions, as well as find out about that do-it-yourself bookkeeping course, then you can reach out to her there as well. Sabrina, I sincerely appreciate you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your time. Thank you so very much. And for you all, please see us back here next Friday at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. That is 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because we are going to have real estate. We're going to be talking about real estate Building
Ooh.
Wealth Through Real Estate Investing, with Sonia Gaines, who is the owner of Gaines Investment Group. So I am super, super excited, and I will see you all next Friday. Thank you for coming out.